The day I seduced the Hong Kong tycoon, I was an innocent thing, wild and unrestrained. When the pain on the bed brought me to tears. Julian teased, "Miss," for a second there, I thought I was being set up. From then on, I became his pretty little bird in a cage. From an aspiring model to an A-list actress. When the news of Julian's engagement was plastered everywhere, everyone laughed at me, my dream of marrying rich shattered. Later, I skipped town without telling anyone. I heard that same Hong Kong tycoon nearly went insane looking for me. I was 19 when I got with Julian. The day we met was the biggest gamble of my life. My agent had secretly drugged my drink, planning to deliver me to the bed of some fat cat Hong Kong businessman. I had to save myself. And as it turned out, my luck was pretty good. The moment I stumbled and fell into Julian's arms, trying desperately to suppress my panting, I felt for the first time like the universe was on my side. Julian liked clean girls. I heard his first love was the classic one that got away. Good family, great personality, gentle, with a serene beauty. But that wasn't me. I was a scheming, manipulative girl with a dangerously charming face. "Sir, please, you have to help me." I slid my fingers into his large hand, gently scratching his palm. To seduce a man, first, you have to become a cat. I poured every ounce of acting talent I had into that moment. Tears welled in my eyes as I looked up at him, a picture of helplessness. Julian was handsome as hell, but he was no saint. In the business world, they called him a smiling tiger. Polished and refined, but not to be underestimated. He was in a good mood that day, one arm holding me as I threw myself at him. His long fingers tilted my chin up. He chuckled. "Miss, should I take you to the hospital?" The way he said miss was loaded with meaning. But I didn't care. I planted a light kiss on his Adam's apple, biting my lip. The flush on my face only made me look more alluring. "Sir, you and I both know I want something else." I knew he liked sweet and obedient. But I also knew he couldn't resist wild. It was an unforgettable night. The bathroom, the bed, the rug on the floor. Traces of Julian and me were everywhere. As I curled up in pain, Julian raised a playful eyebrow. "Miss, I almost thought I was being set up." Julian's voice was magnetic, even saying something so hurtful sounded incredibly sexy. I ignored his insult, trying to even out my breathing. To make my voice sound less broken. What if my agent really shows up later? I traced circles on his chest, my voice a purr. "Demands $100 million from you, or else he'll expose our little affair?" Julian laughed freely. Then he'd vanish from Hong Kong without a trace. A chill finally ran down my spine. If I had offended him today, I would be the one vanishing from Hong Kong without a trace. Julian was a gentleman. So after the initial shock, everything else went smoothly. More than once, he whispered in my ear in Cantonese. He'd say, "Baby, you're incredible." If I pleased him, he would kiss the side of my neck, murmuring dirty things. Even when I begged for him to stop, he'd praise me while showing no mercy. For a split second, I almost forgot I was a woman who had meticulously plotted to sleep with him. I almost felt like Julian's lover. But it was just a fleeting illusion. The reality of it hit me immediately. I couldn't help but mock myself. Julian and me. We were always worlds apart. When I woke up, a credit card was sitting on the bedside table. I understood. Julian just saw me as a plaything for his amusement. And a plaything, naturally, comes with a price tag. I had been woken up in the middle of the night. It seemed Julian's private butler had come to personally collect and dispose of the trash. After all, it contained what Julian had thrown away yesterday. If someone with ill intentions got a hold of it and got pregnant with his child, that would be a huge problem for him. Of course. I was well aware that I was on the list of people with ill intentions. The butler brought clothes and a business card. "Mister," he said, "if you need anything, you can call this number. The credit card is for you, to use as you see fit." I took it without any hesitation. There was no reason to refuse. This was a calculated seduction from the start. There was no point in acting coy now. After that day, I didn't contact Julian again. And of course, I couldn't expect him to lower himself to find a model whose name he probably couldn't even remember. But I never expected to run into him while waiting for the bus. A light rain had started to fall, and the black night sky felt heavy and oppressive. When the car window rolled down, Julian's handsome face drew stares from everyone around. I was polite but distant. "Mr. He. Get in." I obediently got in the car. Julian, without any preamble, pulled me onto his lap. The partition in the car slowly rose, sealing us off from the world and muffling any intimate sounds. He kissed me directly, as if he was certain I wouldn't dare refuse. The sound of our lips and tongues tangling was both intimate and clear. My heart was about to beat out of my chest. His voice was low and raspy. "Why didn't you call me?" My hands wrapped around his neck as I complained, "The company keeps setting me up on these dinner meetings. I haven't had any time to think about you." He squeezed my waist. Liar. Yes, he was right. I was waiting for the right moment for us to meet again. I didn't just want a few scraps from Julian. I wanted endless resources. Enough resources to make me a star. I said sheepishly, "I was afraid you'd find me annoying, like something you couldn't get rid of." That day, I was too forward. Right then, I looked like a child who had done something wrong. Julian was about to say something. But disaster struck. The car was hit with immense force. The last thing I heard before passing out was a bang that nearly shattered my eardrums. I had been kidnapped. To be precise, I was collateral damage because of Julian. The kidnappers were after the He family's money and grabbed me along the way. I couldn't help but curse my luck. I never thought I'd be in a life or death situation. If I had known, I would have wished I'd never laid eyes on him. But this time, it was both a danger and an opportunity. This became crystal clear when Julian was rescued, and the kidnapper used me as a human shield. "Julian, if you want to save your girl, show some sincerity." The kidnapper's arm was wrapped around my neck. Julian's expression was ice cold. The place was surrounded by police. All Julian had to do now was wait for the kidnapper to be apprehended. Of course, whether I lived or died wasn't important. When the kidnapper pointed his gun at Julian, my brow furrowed with worry. Then, I gave him a determined look. I pulled out a discarded blade I had hidden at my waist and slashed it across the kidnapper's eyes. I wasn't completely sure it would work. But I was a desperate gambler. There was a 50% chance I'd be killed. But there was also a 50% chance I'd not only be saved but also make a lasting impression on Julian. I won the bet. I'd carved a deep gash across the kidnapper's eyeball. In that moment of distraction, Julian kicked the gun from his hand and pulled me into his arms. The kidnapper's blood was still on my hands. I trembled as I fell into Julian's embrace. He asked me, "Are you scared?" To seduce a man, you have to be a cat, and you have to be a tiger. I said, "I'm terrified." "But he might have hurt you." Julian let out a small laugh. He pulled me tighter, kissing my lips. I knew. Whether it was true or not, those words pleased him. The truth was, I wasn't scared. Growing up in the slums, I'd fought with other street kids over a single piece of bread. Hurting a kidnapper? That was nothing. When I transitioned to acting, Julian didn't plan on getting too involved. One day when he visited the set, I deliberately provoked Jenny, the actress who had been giving me a hard time. In this scene, she was supposed to throw a glass of water on me and slap me. She used it as an excuse to call for take after take. I was counting the seconds. Jenny delivered her line, "I'm going to kill you today." 3, 2, 1. Her hand was caught in mid-air. Julian's assistant had a neutral expression, but Jenny's face was twisted in pain. I was soaking wet, and my face was red and swollen. I probably looked a little broken. I had to become a puppy caught in the rain. Julian sat off to the side, with the director fawning over him. He glanced over at me, his tone icy. My baby is so professional. That was the first time he had publicly acknowledged me in front of everyone. The past feels like a puff of smoke, flashing through my mind frame by frame. So much so that for a moment, I didn't even hear the reporter's question. I smiled gracefully. Could you ask that again? In 7 years, I had transformed from that pitiful young model into a sought-after, A-list actress. What are your thoughts on the engagement announcement between Mr. Julian He and Ms. Claire Chen? Can you tell us about the status of your relationship with Mr. He? Are you disappointed by the engagement news? Does Mr. He have any plans to publicly acknowledge you? Your dream of marrying into a wealthy family has been shattered. What are your thoughts on that? The reporters fired questions like a machine gun. They were probably hoping I'd give them their next big headline. I let out a small laugh, without a trace of jealousy or anger. Instead, I offered a generous blessing. Mr. He and Ms. Chen are a perfect match. I'm sure they'll have a long and happy marriage. Julian and I were always a matter of convenience. There was never any hope. So how could there be disappointment? The hashtags Chloe Grace and Chloe Blesses Julian He shot to the number 1 and 2 spots on X's trending list. Wait, did they break up? Please, you know what kind of family Julian He comes from. Chloe was his mistress, at best. Didn't we just see news about them checking into a hotel together before the new year? Our goddess is better off single. The comments were a mix of mockery and support, but some bored netizens were already spinning conspiracy theories. Like how I was declaring war on the official fiancé. The hashtags were trending hard. Chloe, should we get the hashtags taken down? My assistant asked nervously. I looked at her, puzzled. Are we rolling in money? It's free publicity. Why would we turn that down? I logged onto X to promote my new movie, The Last Laugh. Hope you all enjoy it. I attached a side profile shot from my makeup session for today's red carpet. 10 minutes later, a message from Julian came through. Coming to your place tonight. Ever since I moved to the mainland to focus on my career, this has been my home base, while Julian is always flying all over the world. The last time, he took the liberty of getting me 2 days off from the film set. For those 2 days, he barely let me out of bed. My fingers tapped on the table, then I told my assistant. Go buy some things. Get the large size. It had been a while. He was coming over for one reason and one reason only. My stash at home was all out. The last thing I wanted was to get pregnant. Julian was in a bad mood. I could tell from the way he showed me no mercy. Julian, I moaned in discomfort. Julian leaned in to kiss my ear. Baby, say my name again. Vicious and seductive. In bed, I always gave him whatever he wanted. Julian. Softer, he demanded. Julian. He laughed, his tone playful and cruel. Not wild enough. I knew he was probably upset about something, so he had a whole arsenal of ways to torture me. And I also knew I could never win against him. In this twisted relationship, I was always the one at a disadvantage. I fought back the lump in my throat. He gripped my waist, a little too hard. Julian, my cheeks were flushed as I called his name, just as he asked. But Julian didn't let up. He continued to do as he pleased. It hurts. If it hurts, then bear with it. I lowered my head, letting a single, large tear drop onto the bedsheet. I can endure a lot. I've endured humiliation, endured abandon. By the time it was over, I still hadn't figured out the reason for Julian's volatile mood. Without a backward glance, he walked straight into the bathroom. I pulled the blanket over my body, barely covering the marks of our intimacy. This apartment was on the top floor of a skyscraper in the city center, where every square inch was worth a fortune. Looking down, I could see the billboard on the building across the way. On that billboard was my ad for a jewelry campaign. The me in the photo looked stunning, so elegant. No one who saw it would ever imagine I used to be an orphan wandering the streets of Hong Kong. At 19. To afford my own shoebox apartment in Hong Kong, to give my transient life a sense of belonging, I signed with an agency and debuted as an aspiring model. The agency had me wearing revealing clothes, shuttling between one annoying dinner party and another without a shred of dignity, all for a small spot in a magazine's inner pages. The senior models would teach us how to cleverly dodge the wandering hands of investors. They'd teach us how to show off our alluring figures during a magazine cover shoot. They'd teach us how to avoid the malicious tricks meant to give you an allergic rash so you couldn't be in photos. But they never taught us how to survive in the entertainment industry with dignity. Dignity is for the people at the top of the pyramid. But right now, a senior model scoffed, the smoke from her cigarette curling around her, making her eyes red. You can't just give up money for dignity, can you? At that moment, I looked at the giant billboard on the building opposite us. It was a famous actress, Gloria Gu, with a charming smile, endorsing a brand. People on the ground had to look up to see her. Fireworks exploded, dazzling and brilliant. Desire, like a demon's claws, sank into my heart. I wanted to be famous. To have a glittering career, to be a massive star. Now, the face on that billboard is mine. People on the street have to look up to see me. I have so much money. But people are always greedy. When you have no money, you want money. When you have money, you want dignity. I lit a slim cigarette. I never used to smoke, but lately, I've found that nicotine really can numb the nerves for a little while. The emotions seem to dissipate with the smoke. Because right now, I want dignity. And between Julian and me, that's the ultimate taboo. When Julian came out of the shower, I was on the balcony, staring blankly at the ground below. He wrapped his arms around my waist. What are you thinking about? I told him the truth, my face blooming into a smile, as if I'd never been bothered by such thoughts. Thinking about when Mr. He's wedding will be. I'll be sure to send a generous gift. Julian let out a sarcastic laugh. His hands tightened slightly, turning me around to face him. Chloe, you seem pretty excited about it. Even at 30, Julian was still devastatingly handsome. He stood there in a bathrobe, his skin fair, his hair still wet, with trickles of water winding down his neck. I giggled, draping my arms over his shoulders, teasing him playfully. I pushed all the responsibility onto him. You're the one who said it. When you get married or get tired of me, we'd break up. It was the second year I was his mistress. Back then, my relationship with Julian in the bedroom was passionate. As my sugar daddy, he was diligent in helping me land several supporting roles and endorsement deals. My income shot up. I might not be a saint, but I knew how to be grateful. That winter, on his birthday, we had planned to spend the evening together. But he was probably swamped with work, completely forgetting his own birthday, and forgetting that he was supposed to have dinner with his family. And he forgot, or maybe he just didn't care enough to tell me he wasn't coming back. I was used to the role of waiting. That night, it was almost midnight, his birthday almost over. I broke my own rule and called him. Mr. He, what time will you be back? There was a pause on the other end. Julian's voice was hoarse and deep. He'd probably had a few drinks. You're waiting for me? I didn't answer his question directly. I thought we had plans tonight. He laughed, a carefree sound that was different from his usual restrained, gentlemanly demeanor. Tonight, he sounded more like a devil-may-care rich kid. Wait for me. I timed it perfectly and cooked a bowl of birthday noodles. I was never a good cook. My philosophy was as long as it's edible. To make this bowl of noodles, I had even gone to a chef at a 5-star restaurant for lessons. When he walked in the door, the noodles were just ready. I presented them to him with all my heart, feeling a little nervous. I admit, back then, I had put some real effort into him. Julian had been navigating the business world for years. He was a master at reading people. How could he not see through the intentions of a 20-year-old girl? He took off his coat, wrapped his arm around my waist, and while his actions were intimate, his words were ice cold. Don't waste too much of your energy on me. When I get tired of you, or when I'm getting married, we'll naturally break up. You had to hand it to Julian for being a gentleman. Telling me the outcome in advance so I wouldn't get any funny ideas. I tried to save face with a naive excuse. I just made an extra bowl. How was that even possible? The noodles were decorated with 4 words carved from carrots: Happy Birthday. Julian was amused by my childish excuse and didn't call my bluff. He just ripped my dress. You know what birthday present I really want. Of course, I knew. That night, we were reckless for a long time. After drinking, he was even more of a bastard than usual. He forced me to say embarrassing things. I don't know how much time passed. After he fell asleep, I quietly slipped out of bed. The bowl of noodles had gone soggy. I tasted a bite. It was awful. But now he's about to get married, and he still hasn't gotten tired of me. 7 years is long enough for every cell in a person's body to be replaced. I can't possibly be the other woman, can I? I saw the news about you and Miss Claire Chen. You're a great match. It wouldn't be right for me to get in the middle of that, would it? Julian's family was very strict. Before marriage, it didn't matter how many women he had. But after marriage, he had to be faithful to his wife. Perhaps my smile was too blinding. Julian sneered, a perfect match? Happy and fulfilled? I knew he must have seen my statement on the red carpet. I sighed. Mr. He, I sincerely wish you the best. I'd even be willing to go buy a lock with his and Claire's names on it and clamp it onto one of those love bridges. Julian leaned on the railing, his eyes playful and mocking, but his tone was filled with an undeniable command. Baby, since when did you get to call the shots in our relationship? Julian was angry. He rarely showed his dominant side to me. At this moment, even though he was smiling, he was full of aggression. His fingertips traced a path along my neck, inch by inch across my skin. Then they provocatively dipped into my cleavage. I'm not done with you yet. Who gave you the guts to talk about leaving? He scoffed, then pulled away. In that moment, an impulse washed over me. Julian. He stopped. What I mean is, let's just end it. It's better for both of us. Baby, I'll pretend I didn't hear that this time. But there won't be a next time. Julian and I entered a cold war. Or rather, it was a one-sided breakup on my part. The headline Adrian He gravely ill, now hospitalized was glaring. The He family was a massive enterprise. With the old patriarch now seriously ill, a power shift was inevitable. Julian would be very busy, which gave me a lot of time. I started to gradually wind down my work. Time flowed like water, and a month passed quickly. Jessica sent me a message. She was the second female lead in The Last Laugh, and we had a lot of scenes together, so we got to know each other. Babe, want to go clubbing? Then she sent me an address. My recent work was all wrapping up, and though movie offers were pouring in, I hadn't found a good script yet. I really should relax a little. I knew this club, a lot of celebrities went there, and their security was top-notch. Sure. I wore a slip dress with a black leather jacket over it, looking sexy and alluring. We hadn't spoken in a month. I had already accepted that Julian and I were broken up. I guess you could call it a breakup. After all, he hadn't had any other women in these 7 years. It wasn't until I walked into the private room that I realized it was an ambush. When I saw Claire Chen sitting in the center, everyone looked at me like they were watching a good show, their eyes darting back and forth between us. Jessica looked guilty. She mouthed "I'm sorry" to me. I didn't blame her. She might have been forced into it. There were a lot of familiar faces in the room. Wendy was the first to speak, her voice mocking, "Well, look who it is, the great actress. Come on, have some fun with us." Everyone was egging me on. I didn't want to be a killjoy. All right. Someone quickly made room for me. Right next to Claire. Wendy poured me a drink. Claire's treating tonight, so don't hold back. She can afford any drink you want. I winked playfully. Since Miss Chen is being so generous, I'll have to order the most expensive one. Wendy roared with laughter, and Claire, sitting beside her, also let out a laugh. As expected of a high society lady, her every move was graceful. Julian has told me about you, she said, her voice soft and sweet. My fingers holding the wine glass trembled. See. No matter how long I was entangled with Julian, no matter how many headlines we made, no matter how everyone treated me with deference because of him, I still couldn't help but feel insecure in front of Claire. I smiled brightly. Oh. And what did Mr. He say about me? He said you're beautiful, polite, and know your place. None of those sounded much like compliments. I tilted my head, studying this woman who held a slight, but heavily restrained, animosity towards me. Claire truly was Julian's first love. Gentle, sophisticated. What is it you want to say, Miss Chen? I asked, getting straight to the point. Claire stopped smiling. She said slowly and deliberately, Julian says you know your place. So, may I ask you to leave Julian? She paused. As his fiancée. You could hear a pin drop in the room. Everyone seemed to be waiting for my answer. I held my glass, swirling the liquid inside, not rushing to reply. Chloe, have some shame. Claire's been abroad for so long, and she's engaged to Julian as soon as she's back. You should get lost. I always thought you were sensible. Now the real lady is telling you to scram, can't you just do it quickly? Everyone knows you people are just playthings. It was just a fling to begin with. You weren't actually dreaming of marrying into a rich family, were you? Everyone knows a family like Julian's would never marry an actress. Claire and Wendy sat on their thrones, watching as the crowd verbally attacked me. It seemed everyone was certain I wouldn't leave Julian. Maybe because of the money, maybe because of the power. I let out an absurd laugh. I raised my glass and clinked it against Claire's on the table. Didn't Julian tell you? Claire looked at me, confused. What? I spoke slowly, unhurriedly. Miss Chen, if I were you, I'd focus on handling Julian. I clicked my tongue. Instead of coming here to make things difficult for me. Just as I finished speaking, the door to the room swung open. It was the man I hadn't seen in a month. Julian rarely had such a dark expression. What are you all doing? Everyone fell silent. I swallowed a mouthful of wine. It was terribly bitter. I didn't look at him. Miss Chen, I already told Julian we were breaking up a month ago. You can choose to manage your own man instead of coming here to bother me. I raised my glass to her. I wish you two a lifetime together, 100 years of happiness. May you be locked together forever. As I was leaving, Julian grabbed my hand. He'd been learning martial arts since he was a kid. He was definitely stronger than me. I couldn't break free. Wait for me. I refused. No. Claire's face was pale, tears welling in her eyes. Julian. Julian's voice was sharp. Perhaps I wasn't clear. The engagement is off. I looked at him in shock. Chloe is my girlfriend, he sneered. Who gave you the nerve to humiliate her? Julian's car sped through the streets. I was silent the entire way. A message from Jessica popped up on my phone, apologizing. I didn't react, just deleted her contact. Whether she was forced or did it willingly today, I wouldn't accept her apology. Julian owned a lot of property in Shanghai. But his favorite was the apartment in the city center. He brought me into the room and was about to kiss me. I just felt tired. I don't want to. I don't want to kiss. I don't want to hug. I don't want to have sex. Julian pressed his lips together and explained, there's no engagement between me and Claire. It was just a verbal agreement our parents made when we were kids. I didn't know about the engagement news she and my mother released. As for the news, I wanted to see your reaction. It'll be taken down tomorrow. He rarely had this much patience. Julian, I said softly, swallowing the lump in my throat. Can you just let me go? Today's confrontation was just the appetizer. There would be no happy ending for Julian and me. If this continued, what little self-respect I had left would be completely destroyed. Julian gripped my chin, forcing me to look up. Let you go? His tone was almost incredulous. Yes, let me go. I took a deep breath. I don't care who you marry. You're the one who said it, we'd break up when you get married or get tired of me. A storm was brewing in Julian's eyes. So when you saw my engagement news, all that happiness wasn't fake. It was a statement, not a question. That's right. If not this time, it would be the next. I frowned, trying not to let the tears fall. You said we'd break up when you got tired of me. I'd really like to know, it's been 7 years, when are you going to get tired of me? The pressure around Julian was suffocating, as if he was barely suppressing his rage, yet his tone remained gentle, just like always. Baby, why do you think I would get tired of you, and not that I've been with you for 7 years because I love you? I looked up, meeting his gaze. And said firmly, because I don't believe you. Julian laughed, a bitter, angry sound. He released his grip on me and walked over to sit on the bed. I felt like I could finally breathe. Tears fell in large drops. So, can we break up now? You only see me as a toy anyway. If one golden canary is gone, he can always find another. Julian was no longer the gentle, refined man he used to be. He was now showing the true colors of a spoiled, rich playboy. A toy? He raised an eyebrow. Do you know what a toy is? He sounded as if he'd heard something ridiculous. There are plenty of guys in our circle who break their women. Is that what you want me to do to you? His eyes were full of a careless amusement. He had finally dropped his everyday mask. Then take it off, he said coldly. What? Julian walked straight over to me. He twisted my arms behind my back. He had already violently ripped my red dress. There was no desire in Julian's eyes, only the eerie calm after a storm. My clothes were in tatters, while he was impeccably dressed in his suit. His long fingers roamed over my waist, moving downwards. A moment later, he whispered cruelly in my ear. Baby, this is what it means to be played with. My breathing was unsteady. Tear tracks stained my cheeks. He wiped my tears away. You're not allowed to leave. You're the one who started this, so you're going to see it through. I stopped talking to Julian. At 19, I wanted to buy a small room of my own in Hong Kong, to give my rootless self a sense of belonging. But now I have all of that. Yet I feel like I've never gotten what I truly wanted. Everything I gained from Julian ultimately came back to bite me. Recently, the film crew asked me to come back and reshoot a scene where I fall into the water. Even though it's that time of the month, and the pain made my face pale. I didn't want to delay the production's progress. I just wanted to finish the work I had on hand as quickly as possible. The river water in early autumn is still very cold. A sharp pain twisted in my abdomen, making my vision go black from time to time. It was late when we finished, just as the sun was setting. By the time I took the towel from my assistant and walked back to the trailer, the pain in my stomach was getting stronger and stronger. Just as I was about to get on the vehicle, my legs finally gave out, and I collapsed. It didn't hurt. Because Julian caught me. He was frowning, looking like he was in pain for me. I thought. Falling in love with Julian. This was always my own doing. When I woke up, the dull ache in my abdomen had subsided. The hospital room lights were off. Moonlight filtered through the window, casting a glow on the white curtains. I could just make out the shape of Julian sitting by the bed. He wasn't in the shadows, and the light traced the handsome outline of his profile. I watched him for a while. Julian. He seemed to snap back to reality, his powerful aura gone, replaced by a kind of despair. What's wrong? He held my hand, his thumb gently rubbing the space between my thumb and index finger. His eyes were bloodshot as he said in a low voice, "Chloe, the doctor said, you've had a miscarriage before." "But why?" he sniffled, struggling to continue. "Why didn't I know about this baby?" Julian's words were like a bolt of lightning tearing through the sky, splitting open a long-buried memory. I pushed his hand away. And slowly sat up. "You didn't know? I thought your mother would have told you. Julian and I had a child once. I don't know if it was a boy or a girl. It was in our 4th year together. I had already made a name for myself in Hong Kong, starring as the lead in several dramas. In magazines, I was no longer just a small picture in the corner but graced the entire cover. My relationship with Julian was an open secret, both within the industry and to the public. That year, I was successful and very busy. Julian was also always busy. He spent 2 months in Europe expanding his market. The day he came to see me, he had had a lot to drink. He pulled me into bed again and again, but we didn't use protection. I think, in that moment, I threw all my principles out the window. I always thought I would live for money, or for a glittering career. But in my time with Julian, my heart slowly surrendered. I fell in love with him. I craved the warmth of his body during our lovemaking. I craved the way he defended me in front of others. He didn't stay in Hong Kong for long before he went abroad for work again. And I was so busy, I forgot to take the morning after pill. That year, I was on the set of a cop drama, and there were a lot of scenes with wire work. One time, a screw wasn't tightened properly, and I fell from the 2nd floor. After I went to the hospital, I found out I was having a threatened miscarriage. I was pregnant by accident. I was panicking, I didn't know what to do. My first instinct was to call Julian. But he didn't pick up. Instead, it was Mrs. He, Julian's mother, who came to see me. It wasn't actually the first time we had met. I had seen her from a distance at banquets a few times. She smiled very kindly, but her intention in coming was to have me sign the consent form for an abortion. "Miss Grace, you're still young, you don't understand the responsibility of a family. The He family will absolutely not allow an illegitimate child to be out there, and we certainly won't allow the mother of Julian's child to be a starlet who tried to seduce him." My fingers curled into a fist. Mrs. He's words were harsh, but true. "Does Julian know?" I asked bitterly. Mrs. He smiled elegantly. "Whether he knows or not isn't important. What's important is how this started. Forgive me for being blunt, Miss Grace, but you and Julian were a mistake from the beginning. So this uncontrolled outcome should be corrected. Or does Miss Grace think Julian would find you important enough to drop a multi-million-dollar project to come and be with you?" She was right. I didn't think so. That day, there was a torrential downpour. I numbly signed the papers. Not a single tear fell. I thought, maybe this was the beginning of getting back on the right track. If you're going to be the villain from the start, then you have to see it through to the end. For Julian's power and influence. Then don't think about anything else. I'm sorry. At this moment, the weight of my grievances threatened to drown me. Why? Why didn't you answer your phone back then? Tears streamed down my face. Julian tried to hold me, but I struggled fiercely. Why are you asking me about it now? I was so close to forgetting about it. My hands clenched into fists, and I beat against him, one punch after another, my sobs growing more heart-wrenching. Why didn't you use protection? Why were you so irresponsible? Why did you do this to me? I felt a warm drop on my neck. Julian was crying. I was in Europe then, I couldn't get away. When you called, my phone was in the bedroom, and I was in a meeting. When I called you back, you said it was nothing, so I didn't think much of it. His voice was choked with sobs. It's my fault. I'm so sorry. I didn't know about the baby, I didn't know you were hurting. I'm so sorry. My brow furrowed, my vision blurred by tears, unable to see the path ahead. So Julian could cry over this child too. I thought he wouldn't care. But I didn't shed a single tear when I had the surgery. There was a huge storm in Hong Kong that day. I went home alone. I cooked myself a bowl of birthday noodles. I guess that storm was slow to arrive. It's only just now raining down on me. I asked Julian, if you feel guilty, can you let me go? Julian still said no. He was cruel and resolute. Either you fall in love with me again, or I'll force you to love me. Baby, those are your only two options. I'm selfish and cruel. So my love is force. I never expected to see Mrs. He again. She appeared while Julian was keeping me as a virtual prisoner. She gave me a chance. A chance to get away from Julian. She told me to go abroad and not come back for a while. All of this, I assumed, was to prepare for Julian's marriage. How much can you love someone? In the end, you always have to bow to reality. Miss Grace, before I married my husband, I got rid of quite a few starlets for him. I showed little emotion. And? I thought you were just like them. But my son called me 2 days ago. He was furious, and he even did some reckless things. Mrs. He lowered her gaze and continued, I think he truly loves you, but he's a golden child, used to getting his way. That's not how you love someone. So I want to give you the future you want. Consider it an apology for my mistake, though it can't make up for a fraction of the harm. She drove me to the airport. As I was getting out of the car, she called out to me. I'm sorry. It rained in Chiang Mai today. I don't know if it's because I've been running around day and night for the past 3 months, or if my health has really declined. I just got caught in the rain today and caught a cold. In 3 months, I first went to Europe, spending a long time exploring cities in Sweden, the UK, and elsewhere. Julian doesn't know this, but my childhood dream was to travel the world. Back when I was working at the docks, seeing those elegant and wealthy people setting off on cruises, I was so incredibly envious. In this materialistic world, I've never been able to escape its pull. So this time, I wasn't traveling abroad for a variety show or a movie shoot. I was truly enjoying a trip that was all my own. I'm not that famous overseas. So even without a mask and sunglasses, it's rare for anyone to recognize me. This gave me a sense of freedom. I just arrived in Chiang Mai today and randomly picked a bed and breakfast. I haven't decided on my next destination yet. Maybe the US, or maybe Australia. My acting career back home is on hold for now. For 3 months, I was able to avoid any news about Julian. I took off my clothes, planning to take a hot shower. Amidst the sound of the drizzling water, everything outside seemed to be blocked out. The creak of a door closing was so faint, I wasn't sure if I had imagined it. I swallowed hard, my heart pounding with nerves. I couldn't fully trust the security here. I yanked my bathrobe off the hook and wrapped it around myself. I didn't turn off the shower. I heard footsteps outside. I closed my eyes in frustration. I shouldn't have booked a B&B. I bit my lip. I had no weapon to defend myself, not even in the bathroom. The heavy footsteps drew closer. I calculated the distance. The moment the door opened, I gathered all my strength, planning to strike him in the neck. But I had severely overestimated myself. My fist was easily caught. And in the next moment, I was pulled back into an embrace. The man whispered intimately in my ear, his lips occasionally brushing against my earlobe, sending a wave of tingles through me. Baby. Julian's voice was laced with anger. I've been going crazy looking for you. Julian dressed me piece by piece. The clothes were all brought from Hong Kong. A sexy bra and a dress. It was as if he was dressing me up like his favorite Barbie doll. He tilted my chin up, satisfied. This is how I like you. But this isn't what I like. He paid me no mind, his eyes meeting mine. So what? Julian seemed very pleased with my obedience. He took me back to the hotel he was staying at. He took off his coat. Do you know what I've been thinking about for the past 3 months? I've been thinking, how did my baby manage to run away so fast? Do I need to chain you up so you won't leave my side? My heart skipped a beat. His fingers caressed my ankle. His touch was warm, but I only felt a chill. Julian smiled gently. I bet you had a great time these past 3 months, otherwise you wouldn't have booked tickets to New York and New Zealand. He let out a small laugh. His voice was gentle, but his actions were non-negotiable. Like two extremes. So now, it's my turn to have some fun, right? On the way back to the country, I gave Julian the silent treatment. The abandon of the day before was still fresh in my mind. When he brought me back to his villa in Hong Kong, I had a cold expression the entire time. After I had been soaking in the bathtub for a long time. He walked straight in, the panic in his eyes undeniable. My pent-up frustrations finally exploded. I threw the scented candle from the side of the tub at Julian. The glass shattered, leaving a bloody gash on his brow bone. Isn't this enough? Can't you give me even this little bit of space? I accused him. Julian, is sex the only thing we can do together? I admit it. I love Julian. But that doesn't mean I can tolerate this twisted relationship. I got out of the tub, put on my bathrobe, and walked straight past him. But he caught me in his arms. As long as you don't leave, I'll do anything you want. He looked down at me. If there's something you're unhappy with, I can change. But you can't just run away again. Sincere. For a moment, I was speechless. I gave in. In the beginning, I was the one who pursued him. If this relationship was destined to be unbreakable, then let's start over. I want a normal relationship. I want to meet, date, get to know each other, kiss, and hug like normal people. Julian was true to his word. For the month I was back on the mainland, he didn't bother me again. I searched for news from the past 3 months. Only then did I discover that the day after I left, Julian had been in a car accident. It said it happened on the way to the airport. His condition was unknown. That's what gave me 3 months to escape. Tonight, there's a charity gala. Many celebrities and business moguls will be there. Naturally, Julian will be too. At the banquet, many people came to talk to me. Among them was the male lead from The Last Laugh, Ryan, who had won Best Actor the year before last. The Last Laugh was a box office hit and is now streaming on all major platforms. The ticket sales were very high. I heard you disappeared for 3 months, he said, raising his champagne glass to clink with mine. I said playfully, not really, just took a solo trip to clear my head. I was quite familiar with him. In the movie, we were evenly matched rivals. In reality, we were too. He was an exceptionally good actor. Have you read the script for director Allen's new movie? He asked me. They sent it over, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Ryan smiled sincerely. Chloe, I genuinely hope you'll be in it. This art film is perfect for you, and I think director Fong is aiming for an award with this one. All right, definitely. He looked at me, his eyes holding an unreadable depth. On the other side of the room, there was a commotion. Julian had arrived. I instinctively looked in his direction and our eyes met unexpectedly. Ryan asked me, Chloe, are you single right now? I thought for a moment. Yes. I am single right now. Then, would you do me the honor of having dinner with me tomorrow? My smile froze. Julian was walking towards me. I laughed it off, saying to Ryan, sure, there's nothing wrong with friends having dinner. Julian let out a small laugh. Then, may I ask Miss Grace a question as well? You may. Can I pursue you? I had no reason to say no. Julian proved with his actions that he was pursuing me. A different bouquet of flowers every day, dates every day. His actions were always restrained. We didn't hold hands once in 2 months. But it made my heart flutter more than all our previous intimacy. I accepted the offer for director's film. Ryan was the male lead. There was a bed scene, and Julian observed the entire thing. Director's smile was a bit forced. His presence was probably too intimidating. I messed up take after take. Ryan was completely helpless, covering my body with the blanket. Are you okay? We can shoot this tomorrow. No, it's fine. I shot a glare at Julian. He let out a soft snort and turned to leave. I couldn't help but smile. Director, we can start now. We were both professional actors, so this time we got it in one take. It was already late when filming ended. I didn't have any scenes tomorrow. Julian personally drove me back to the villa. When we arrived, I tried to get out, but the car door wouldn't open. Julian, I can't open the door. He sat there dejectedly, looking a bit helpless. Baby, I'm so jealous. The car door unlocked. I held back a laugh and jumped out of the car cheerfully. After walking a little way, I looked back. Julian was leaning against the car, a cigarette between his long fingers, white smoke puffing from his thin lips. The wind ruffled his dark hair. In that instant, the bronze bell in my heart seemed to have been struck hard. I bit my lip and ran back. I stood on my tiptoes and hugged Julian and winked at him playfully. A reward. After finishing the scenes in the country, the crew had to move to the UK for filming. The constant rain in Newcastle recently was giving me a bit of a headache. The sky was always a dreary grey, making even the buildings seem less beautiful. Julian had been flying back and forth between the country and the UK a lot recently. Right now, there was a problem with his business in Hong Kong, so he went back to deal with it. I hadn't heard from him in days. The crew was staying in the same hotel. On the last day of filming, a light rain began to fall. The endless rainy days gave me a fever. I took some fever medicine and drifted in and out of sleep. I seemed to dream of Julian. Julian was wearing a black coat, his posture tall and straight. He was so handsome, easily rivaling any male celebrity back home. Perhaps because of the fever, I felt hot and cold at the same time. It made me feel more vulnerable. So much so that when Julian knelt by the bed, his eyes level with mine, I took the initiative to grab his hand. His long fingers were a bit cold, and my body was hot. I subconsciously wanted to get closer to him for comfort. Julian. I heard my own voice, a little soft, a little coquettish. He hummed in response. I'm here. I feel so sick. His hand touched my forehead. The fever's about to break. Don't be scared. I had been in the UK for 3 years, doing everything alone. Now, seeing this person from my past in a dream, it felt like the softest part of me had been poked. I rubbed my cheek against the palm of his hand. Julian laughed softly. He leaned in, our noses brushing. His voice was captivating and sexy. Baby, I miss you so much. But when I woke up, he was gone. It must have been a dream. I was covered in sweat. I went to the bathroom to take a shower. There was a knock on the door. I instinctively thought it was Julian and ran to open it. It was Ryan. My expression instantly fell. Ryan teased me with a smile. Chloe, you look disappointed. I waved my hand. No, what's up? The director is treating us to dinner. He asked me to check if you're feeling better. I'm much better now. You can come in and wait. After I changed my clothes, I went with Ryan to the restaurant. After a few drinks, Ryan looked at me. People always said he had a pair of soulful eyes. I guess they were right. He raised his glass to me. Chloe, I've really enjoyed working with you. I gave a polite, official reply. Me too. He became serious, as if he was making a solemn confession. It's not just enjoyment, Chloe. This might be presumptuous, but I really like you. If it's possible, I hope you'll accept my pursuit. My lips moved. But I still refused. Ryan, as an actor, I'm very happy to have a partner like you. But if we're talking about romantic feelings, I don't think I have them. I don't know why. The image of Julian flashed through my mind. I think I'm already in love with someone. In that moment, I suddenly realized how much I missed Julian. I wanted to go back to the hotel immediately, pack my things, and fly back to Hong Kong to find him. When I stepped outside, I found him standing at the intersection. He was wearing a black coat, blending into the twilight, like something out of a British fashion magazine. When he looked at me, he raised an eyebrow. It seems my baby has already turned down someone else's confession. He heard. I took a step forward and shook my head. Not yet. I'm choosing between two options. He wrapped an arm around my waist and kissed me with possessive intensity. Back to the hotel? Okay. When we got inside, he pushed me onto the sofa and kissed me. My legs were straddling his. Julian kissed me intermittently. Him or me? I didn't answer. So he leaned his head back against the sofa, not letting me kiss him. He raised his eyebrows, and for a moment, I saw a flash of boyish spirit in this 30-year-old man. He said, enunciating each word, him, or me. In the business world, they all said he was a smiling tiger. I choose you. He spun around, pinning me beneath him on the sofa. His tone was filled with a certain indignation. I step out for one damn business trip, and I come back to find my home being raided. I was shaking with laughter. The doorbell rang. We were both in a state of disheveled passion. Julian cursed under his breath with a smile. He walked to the door and opened it halfway. His attitude was somewhat dismissive. When he came back, he was holding my purse. I asked him, confused, who was it? Julian kissed me, annoyed. Food delivery. I was about to say something, but he cut me off with his mouth. His wickedness was on full display. Baby, you need to focus. He slowly removed my clothes, piece by piece, kissing my forehead, my lips, the side of my neck, all the way down. The skin on my waist tingled. I shivered suddenly. Outside the window, the fog was thick, and the rain pattered down. I guess what I love most is the humidity of a summer night.